I would say in a prior season of my life, if I were starting to speak my truth and I could tell it was either creating agitation or sadness or some sort of negative emotion or even discomfort for the other person, it would definitely shift the way then I started to like frame or hedge or even like apologize because I could see that I was like entering into someone's space. Um, and that's I am trying to be okay with that actually, that comfortable spaces is not the goal. Brave spaces is what I'm aiming for. And that means that we're not always going to agree.
How can a woman leader go from comfortable to brave conversations, ones that are scary and risky and put your authentic self first? Today, we're going to talk to Lizzie Choi about her journey to being a boss mama and having those brave conversations. After graduating from Stanford, Lizzie started her career as a teacher and eventually became the chief program officer at the nationally acclaimed Summit Public Schools. Summit is known across the country for being innovative. They built the Summit Learning Program, which helps students with not just academics, but mental health and success skills so that students can have a fulfilled life. And guess who spearheaded and led that? That's Lizzie. Lizzie is now a senior vice president at Pahara Institute, a leadership development program for American education leaders. Lizzie's also Korean American. She got married and started a new job both last year. One of the Boss Mama strategies is about trusting and accepting yourself. Lizzie shares how she chooses courage over comfort to be true to herself. Let's learn more from this Boss Mama. So, Lizzie, you have had this very accomplished career, and I'm curious, where did it start? Did you always know you were going to be this amazing education leader?
Well, Analiza, also thank you for having me and thank you for all of your kind, generous words. And it's really interesting to me that you um, talk to me about accomplishments because I think every time I see an accomplishment that I've done, it doesn't feel like an accomplishment. It feels like a step to the next thing I need to do. And so when you ask me where did I start to view myself that way and what did accomplishments mean to me? I mean, it goes back way back. It goes back to kindergarten. I remember in kindergarten, I didn't go to preschool. So it was my first experience of an education system where you're going to be evaluated. Um, I remember that my kindergarten teacher took my mom aside when she picked me up for school one day and said, "Hey, like Lizzie seems to really have a lot of leadership potential. Um, Earlier today, she decided to just get up and start teaching the class. And, that's really special. And you should really cultivate that in her." And that is the first moment where I realized, the actions we have create impressions from other people, which then can lead to connection and can lead to people being in your corner.
Mm. I imagine Lizzie raised by Asian American parents and yours is Korean American. I'm curious, I mean, did you get the Asian pressure? Because I got that from my dad. How about you?
I really didn't feel that I got that pressure from my parents for whatever reason it was. I felt so determined always to just push the envelope. Like if I did something with one project, I mean, I'm talking in third grade, fourth grade, I wanted the next project to be like the thing that no one else had done before. And I always wanted to like add this like unique angle. And in fact, I noticed that my parents saw that drive in me and would talk to me about like, you need to say no to more things. You need to take on fewer things and please rest more. So I um, specifically actually remember getting a bit of the other pressure, which was to not be so goal focused. Yeah, and specifically, I remember one time in seventh grade, it was we were doing some sort of plant posters, and the teacher showed us different plant posters. And so I like had this idea of like, this needs to be the best plant poster ever created so that I can be one of those examples she shows in the future years. And I stayed up like all night, like coloring my plant. And my parents, they would like come out multiple times and be like, please go to bed. That looks good enough. But I didn't listen.
Lizzie, wow, that's hardcore. And you were in middle school working on a plant poster. So, I mean, advanced now. So you're in some ways it's incredible that your parents didn't put that pressure on you, but also that it was coming from yourself. And I imagine that helped you win in many ways to get to Stanford and then do a master's there. So when did you realize like this is not what you wanted? Like what was the breaking point?
Yeah, I think I had this idea that at some point I will arrive. I think that's the thing. It's like at some point I'm going to put in all this work, and then I will have made enough contributions and I will have arrived. And then I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm like getting really tired, and I'm in college. I haven't even started working yet, right? Like I haven't even stopped being a student, and I'm tired. And it doesn't matter. I will still get back on that hamster wheel. Um, and I remember also thinking though that like, no, I probably don't care that much. Like, no. Like other people are not going to make me. This is just because like it's really good to push yourself. Like every new season you have, like there's something you do. But the truth was, I was so motivated at that point by the way other people were evaluating me that I could sense that I would feel crushed if I didn't get a good grade, in college. And everyone like who's gotten good grades in their K through 12 education, I think has this experience where you've like gotten good grades and you go to college and you realize you're a small fish in a big pond, and then you sort of have to reevaluate. But I could not accept that about myself. And I would just push myself and then get so disappointed to the point that my junior year, I decided not to look at my grades um, because I just felt like that one letter would change the way I felt for a week about myself. And so I went to all of my professors and I asked them, hey, like, this is an experiment that I'm doing. I would really like you just to not put the grade, but to give me feedback. Give me feedback on my papers, give me feedback on my, problem sets, but please just don't share that grade with me.
What happened? Did they do that?
They did that. And it was very interesting to sort of be in relationship with feedback without a grade. Um, it was fun to learn. It was fun to try to like focus on mastery. But I also knew at the end of the day, like I would really, really love to have seen the grade.
So after that, you went back to getting a grade.
Yeah, I did go back to getting a grade eventually. And, I was like, hey, yeah, it's just school. Like at some point, like the grades go away. Let's just finish strong. Um, but, that's not how it works. There's lots of grades that you get when you start working.
I mean, I think it's ironic, right, Lizzie, because you became a teacher and then you developed this like innovative system that so many schools across the country replicated about how to help students have internal drive beyond grades. So it's ironic that you're like, listen, let me build that because I'm not about grades, even though I am secretly about grades.
Exactly. I think I just know so deeply how, yeah, like how powerful, those like letters and those evaluations can be, and like how important it is to sort of find that internal drive, and how hard it can be.
So now we're going to fast forward. You're now at Summit, and I mean, we went from teacher to developing this innovative thing, and then you got promoted, and you became, the top person besides the CEO at Summit. So I'm curious how is that now? So you're achieving, you're obviously doing really well at work, and when does the moment come when you're like, shoot, I need to, like, what happens there?
Okay, so my team used to have a joke. I mean, everyone did, like, where's Lizzie's bag? Because like Lizzie never knew where her bag was. Also, I was like constantly having some sort of like plain something like I would like lose my luggage and I would like leave the airport without my luggage because like my brain was just so full, like there wasn't margin. There was a running joke that maybe I should like tie my shoes to my luggage so that I wouldn't like forget it on the plane anymore. I mean, this was like a well-known fact that like maybe Lizzie needs a little more margin in her brain. So like obviously that was a clue that something wasn't working, you know, when you are constantly losing everything. Um, I think the other thing was I realized at one point I really I felt so moved by the work that we're doing and all of the students' lives that are being impacted. And yet, when I like looked at myself, I felt sadness. You know, like I was going to be 30. I think it was my 30th birthday, and I remember thinking like, oh, I was gonna be so excited and like, yeah, this is like gonna be my best decade yet. You know, like yes, and I just felt sadness of like I'm not sure where I am in all of this. And I'm not sure if I'm taking care of myself because I'm not. And once you see that, once you feel that, it's like pretty hard to unsee it, which meant like I need to make some hard choices. I need to step away probably from something that felt very meaningful, that is meaningful, that I believed in deeply, and people that I loved very dearly, um, to figure out a little bit more how to be grounded and to find my compass and to be firm in who I am.
It's pretty brave, Lizzie. I mean, you're at the top of your game and you decide, I'm going to step back and come back to base camp, the thing you built. Lizzie built base camp and now she's coming back to her own base camp. So now you take time off. Well, you're not really because you're a consultant. So what did you do? Like, how did you find your compass?
Yeah. So I did take a couple months off. I also started therapy. I got a coach. I had been working with a coach actually for a bit. Um, and I was sort of working on like designing my life. And I also met my now partner, my lifelong partner, my husband. And I decided that I wanted to spend time sort of experimenting. I built like 3 or 4 different sort of like 10 to 15 year like visions of what life could be that were really different. And I started just like deciding like all of my consulting work, there were going to be little experiments of what those lives could look like. Um, and so I let myself sort of be in that space of ambiguity for a couple years before I decided to join Pahara full time.
Okay, I have to ask this question. What was one super funky, like you wouldn't believe, Annalisa, I built out this possibility for myself?
Mm.
Can you share one of those?
Oh, funky. Let me see.
Or were they very practical, Lizzie?
They were more practical.
You're like university professor or manager of educational tech company or writer of a children's series. Anything, yeah, funky?
Yeah, but there were two things. I mean, one thing I realized is before then, I had never really claimed or thought like I might want to like really run something
Hmm.
because like who am I to run something is like a bit how I felt. And I realized that that like came up in some of my visions for myself is that I would love to run some sort of yeah business. So that was like very interesting and new. The other theme was like I want a lot of space in my life to invest in my family, both in the family that raised me and with my sibling, all of that, and in hopefully in future children if I'm ever to have them. And so that thread was like very clear. And I'm like, well, I probably shouldn't be losing my luggage on a plane if I also want to make sure to not lose like kids on a plane, you know, like in the future. And so like that theme like definitely came through.
You could have your own Home Alone, like Asian version, leaving the kids.
Yeah.
So now you're going through this realization. You're living your life, and you mentioned that external validation was still there, right? Because it matters. And so how did this move you into now that you're living the life? Like how do you now like view yourself? Like what is that journey like?
I mean, it's hard. I think it comes with self-acceptance, and that's the journey that I'm on, is realizing that I am someone who cares about what other people think. Even saying that out loud is tough. Like, I want to be someone who doesn't. So one, it's like noticing, being really honest about what I care about, that maybe doesn't feel great to say, and then it's naming it, and then it's like having the courage to own it and speak that into spaces. Those are the shadow sides of me, and it's okay that I have shadow sides. So I think that's like one part of the process. I think the other part is also practicing speaking my truth, practicing saying things that um, what that are me, that are going to be unformed, imperfect, not well thought out. They might be contradictory of what I said yesterday. They might be different than what I'm going to believe a week from now, but they're authentic to where I am today. And that is the best gift that I can give the world. And to be comfortable with the fact that's the gift that I'm going to bring.
I'm sitting with this embracing of you and that you are not perfect, although we want to appear as if we are. And that's okay. And that's okay to be contradictory, like you said, to what you said just now. It's okay because there's so much, like, one, seeing it, and then two, accepting it, and then three, speaking it. Those are three hard things to do. And when you see, accept, and speak it, to trust that that's actually the most badass boss mama version of you. It's great. I wonder if you put this in your summit base camp experience, because it's like, what, I never learned that before. I don't know if you had, Lizzie, in our journeys. It's like not what we learned at school. So imagine if our kids get to learn that. But first, we have to learn it ourselves and model it. So I love that you're doing this work. So, Lizzie, tell me about, like, a time when you brought that, a time when it was, you wanted to do something different, but he actually brought out this, like, boss mama, I'll call it virgin.
Yeah. I would say in a prior season of my life, if I were starting to speak my truth, and I could tell it was either creating agitation or sadness or some sort of negative emotion or even discomfort for the other person, it would definitely shift the way then I started to like frame or hedge or even like apologize, because I could see that I was like entering into someone's space. And I am trying to be okay with that, actually, that comfortable spaces is not the goal. Brave spaces is what I'm aiming for. And that means that we're not always going to agree. And it seems so basic, but that is exactly what I'm trying to work on right now. And so the other day I was having a conversation with someone, and I decided to ground myself before I went into the conversation, expecting that I might have a different point of view, and reminding myself what value that point of view was connected to, and feeling affirmed that that was still what I wanted to advocate for. And so when I entered into the conversation, I shared my perspective, and I could feel that my perspective, um, it struck a chord for the other person, and I could experience that there perhaps was some disappointment with me or anger or some sort of reaction. But instead of like apologizing or stepping back, I did just like clearly state my piece. Um, I tried to not escalate, but I just tried to stay true to who I am and just let it be.
Sitting with that, the idea that you made a different decision that was more true to you, and regardless of their reaction, you are still okay with you. There's so much strength there.
Admittedly, not right away, maybe like 5 hours later. But that was me, like I need to not betray myself.
I love that, Lizzie. And I want to highlight a few things. You said it's about being brave for you. And second, you said something about grounding. So can you talk more about that? Because it seems like maybe a practice that you use. What does that look like?
Yeah. I think what Boss Mamas has taught me also is like it can be simple, like for me, sometimes it's just a couple deep breaths. It's saying a phrase to myself, and it is reminding myself of my boundaries. And what do I believe? Why do I believe it? I am worthy. And then entering it.
I'm just with that. It's so beautiful, Lizzie. Thank you so much for sharing. And for those in the audience, Lizzie, and they're listening to this and they're on the journey, we're all on this journey. I'm curious, what would you say to someone who said, I wish that I could speak my truth and be that brave, and pause and take this boss mama moment and speak from there? What would you say to them?
When you speak truth, others will speak theirs as well. And that creates a completely different world than the one that we have today. And so it's not just for you, but it's for others as well, to be able to live into that space. So, and all it takes are little conversations here and there, whether it's speaking your truth about your dinner choice or your activity desire. Just like start wherever you can and know that you are creating a free world exactly where you are today.
Maybe all hear that, Lizzie. Maybe all hear, like our kids hear that. I always love it. Thank you so much for that. So we're going to close with some fun, lighter. We have fun too, right, Lizzie? Boss mamas. So let's do some lightning round questions. Are you ready? All right. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Cooking or takeout?
Takeout.
Climb a mountain or jump from a plane?
Climb a mountain.
Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
Yes.
How would you rate your karaoke skills on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being Mariah Carey?
5.
Recent book you read?
Reading The Body Keeps the Score.
What is your favorite way to practice self-care?
An uninterrupted long meal with a friend.
And since you did Boss Mamas and we did that together, what did you get out of that?
I mean, there are so many things. Like one, very practical, actionable steps that I could put into place the next day that would let me lean into my self-worth. And then two, think a bigger reminder, of the way I viewed myself. And so it really was a mirror. I got a mirror to be able to see what I am doing with my life and how that aligns with my values. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
And with that, what is your definition of a boss mama?
Someone who takes the time to get to know who they are, loves themselves, and lives themselves to be authentic and free. Yeah.
And where can we find you? Like LinkedIn, or if you have I don't know if you have TikTok. I don't, but where can we find you, Lizzie?
LinkedIn, sure.
LinkedIn. Great. Great. Well, Lizzie, thank you so much for our time. I adore you and I really appreciate your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I appreciate you.